Okay. Can you hear me now?
And you can't see me. Okay. There I am.
Welcome, friends.
All right, but can you hear me?
What else does Hyro say? I can't hear you, Don.
Can't hear you.
Mothers? Enemies?
Hmm.
Mother-in-laws, if you're
Yeah.
married? Father-in-laws, if you're listening?
Can't hear you.
You can't hear me.
Strange.
This is the
I
first
think you
time.
can hear me.
I can hear you just fine. I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, I can't hear you. Why not?
Is your computer muted?
No, I'm on my phone, my Android, and it's not muted.
We'll see. Maybe if
At
I
one point I
run
heard
through.
you,
Can you
now
hear
I
me now?
don't. When I hear you, my volume is up. So weird. All right, well, I will be back. I'm going to try to reboot. Bye. All right.
I can hear you.
I hear you.
Yeah.
All right. Are we being, yes, we're being streamed. So I'll leave my video off. Okay.
I'm going to post a link over to Hyro's Facebook so that he's got a way to see. Here's the screen. Here's live now.
This technology is awesome.
YouTube. And I hope I'm going to start right. The only problem that I can see is that the placard is from the last stream I set up a long time ago. That should be okay. Here we are. Good morning. I'm not going to try to be a facsimile or a stand-in for Pyro because that's not what I am, and that's not what I can do. But welcome everyone who might be listening this morning, either live or via recording. This morning we have Don with us. I'm going to send one more link. Um, how should we put this? How should we begin? Don, I think you came up with this idea, and you're currently leading to.
All right. I don't know why there's two of me, but
I'll see if I can put the other one. Yep, the other one's cool.
ouch. Awesome. All right. Awesome. So, do you want to pose the question for us?
Me mute this other device to make sure that I'm still hearable. Can you hear me?
Yes, you sound better.
Good. I had to turn off the microphone coming from because I've got two windows. This is all happening using WebRTC real-time communication, which was an application programmer's interface that enables what we're doing right now, and a particular domain called Jitsi, as you see in the upper left-hand corner of my window,
Yes.
is the host of this event. Nice thing about Jitsi is that you can type meet.jit.c as spelled up there in the corner. Stroke, I say stroke instead of slash because I'd rather stroke a cat than slash a cat. And then put in any string of words that you like, hit enter, and you suddenly have just created a immediately available sort of real-time room and a hyperlink that you can share with others through which to have an on-demand video conference by which you can share also strings of text through a chat and have a whiteboard and record to your local hard drive or record to Dropbox or, in this case, stream directly to YouTube and all three at the same time if you're so daring.
And it's free?
Yes, for now. I mean, it's a demo. They have paid subscriptions too. I don't know if there's a limit. There used to be a 40-minute limit. Last time I tried this, Jitsi enabled me to go to at least 100, at least 60 minutes. So if at any point you suddenly find yourself disconnected, just refresh the page and trust that others will do the same so that we've all been able to get into the room. Now, this is not a secured meeting. So if anyone comes across this URL and wants to cause us grief by being less than nice, then I may have to change the rules. And the important thing to understand is if anyone does come on and starts to try to provoke us, well, we're just going to have to count on our prior life training to figure out what to do in that situation. But I did provide the hyperlink both to Hyro's thread on his Facebook timeline, where he discussed that this would be our topic for this morning, which you, I think, Don, have actually come up with. And it was based upon a certain scripture out of the 8th chapter of the Gospel according to John. John's Gospel is interesting in that it differs from the other 3 synoptic Gospels. In that, well, for one thing, it wasn't necessarily written by John. It was written by John's disciples. And at the end of it, he reads over the whole thing and says, okay, this is good. No one add a word, no one take away a word. And here's my own personal handwriting scrawl showing that I approve this.
I approve this message.
Yes. So without going any further, I'll just read the 36th verse out of the 8th chapter, and the verses and chapters came later. They weren't part of the original work. It's just a way that the scribes and various other sets who have read this work have incorporated a way to easily reference all the various parts thereof. So, if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. And in response to this, Don, you wrote, could it be the Son, S-U-N, sets you free? And I have to ask, what did you mean by that? What were you thinking?
Because I believe many of our words have been twisted in our language so that the truth of what it is we are here to participate in is protected in a way. So I don't always believe it's a nefarious purpose, but protected from the people who are up to no good, who have evil intentions or ill will. So I believe it could possibly be the SUN because I believe that the SUN is a portal into this world.
Okay. My mind instantly forked, and it's going to go two ways, but both towards the same end, which is truth. uh, First way and first response, because I've got two responses for you, is have we read it in context?
In context to
So this
what?
is one verse. It's the 36th verse out of the 8th chapter, and the 8th chapter has 59 verses.
hmm So
So
you're wondering if I've looked at the rest of the verses. No, I didn't at this time. However, I grew up in, religion in this, in Christianity. So I studied the Bible thoroughly. But now I have come to realize that perhaps the Bible is pointing at a message that's not necessarily referring to a physical being when it has son, SON.
this is interesting. Okay, I'm going to continue down this line before I ask, but maybe it's a way to track into and to lean into your idea of the sun being a portal. Um, and I'm going to leave it as controversial for the moment while I go off to attend to my wife. I'm here, wife. She's
Okay.
back in the bedroom. She gets a little bit insecure. Yes, I'm going to be right back. In
Okay.
fact, in the meantime, let me go set this down, and then we'll talk a little bit more. SON or SUN. The
Yeah.
controversy is which is the appropriate vowel.
Ah, okay.
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 So, are you familiar with the Hebrew language and how words are spelled in Hebrew?
Yeah, I don't recall it, but I studied it.
Okay, that's well, you've
Mhm.
probably done more than I have then. So then you know that vowels aren't utilized,
Yes.
strings of consonants, and do you know why that is?
I don't remember.
Vowels are controversial,
Mm.
and also it's a good way to distinguish between the insiders and the outsiders, because if you're reading the work and you could walk into a synagogue and start um, speaking the words of God as though you are a Jew. However, if you don't know how to properly vowel, if you haven't heard it and you haven't, if it hasn't been transmitted, like from father to son, for instance, if you don't have that stored in your mind,
Hmm.
then you're not a native speaker, and there's no way to derive the proper way of saying the thing.
Mhm.
So I mean, it'd be like a northerner trying to put on a southerner's accent. You can
Yes,
spot it right away.
exactly. Like I would be totally picked out. They would see it. Yes.
Um, Arabic took the other approach. So Hebrew has 22 letters, I think, and Arabic has a base of 28 letters, but then there are also short vowels and additional endings, and also they're written in different ways depending upon whether or not they're connected. And I'm pretty convinced, I've been thinking this for a while now, that where English got cursive was through studying Arabic.
Mm. And do you see, just on that quick other note, did you, in your world, are you seeing that cursive writing has become obsolete?
No, my 9-year old has been writing in cursive since he was 2 or 3.
So my children, as they finished school, high school, um, cursive became obsolete. They were not allowed to write in cursive anymore.
Yeah, that way they won't be able to read the Constitution and know what it says.
I heard that, but my kid can still read that.
Once everything's digitized, it all becomes an editable form. And from one
Mhm.
generation to the next, you can disappear or replace, which is the more diabolical way. Yeah, what do you mean, First Amendment? This is what it says. It's always said this.
Mhm. Yes. But that's exactly what I believe has happened to the widely distributed Bible. But I don't believe that the essence, the intention has been lost. It's just more difficult for us to unify and discuss it because it's now been, the words always get in our way because words mean something different to each of us.
Right. You have
Live
to
the
be applying, you have to be operating on the same or utilizing the same definitions for the conversation to truly connect. Otherwise, you're talking past each other.
and that will take forever. That's a lengthy, long type of a way
But
to go.
there's
But
common usages, and then there's agreed usages. I mean, I figure abridged dictionaries should be good for most speech, and then if you need to, so long. You've played the game Scrabble before.
yes,
You know that when there's a debate, you turn to a dictionary,
yes.
and it's whatever the house dictionary is usually. Now, let's say you grew up in a house with a Collins or a Merriam-Webster um, or New World Dictionary
Mm,
versus growing up in a house with a complete set of the Oxford English dictionary, which a full unabridged set takes 2 shelves on a bookcase.
mm.
That's the household I want to play Scrabble in.
That's a lot. Let
Yes.
me tell you, I've been good at Scrabble, but that's a lot. But yeah, so what my understanding is today is just the surface. Well,
Right.
maybe it's just a layer or two deep, but it's not very deep because there's just not enough iron sharpening iron. There's not enough people in my environment
Well,
to be able to discuss this way. People are more polarized at this point.
okay. So then I'm going to switch forks. I said I was forking. The other prong I'm going to explore is the idea of sun as object or door or gateway.
Hmm.
You've done something that my own mother I've recognized has done with her in her speech, in that she refers to Jesus as a thing. The objectification of the um, I don't know how you want to refer to this. I would say person, but um, others might claim deity or entity. Um, we're talking man god or hypostatic union, if you want to use theological technical terms. But um, and then I also had a guidance counselor once in high school who would point out the feminine features of Jesus, because if you're going to deify um, the the man, And there's already a very strict, even within the ancient Hebrews, the reason why there was a prohibition against setting up Asherah poles, for instance, was because Asherah poles always came in two forms, male and female, and that was anathema to to God, because what you're doing is setting up a graven image, and not only that, but you're also establishing a gender. You're genderizing someone who we don't know can be genderized, if that makes any sense. I mean, if each one of us is made in the image of God, that means all of us are in the image of God, which means there is no definite gender um, to this creator. And as soon as we start creating idols, I mean, first of all, we're breaking one of the first three commandments, uh, but we're also limiting ourselves. We are, if not physically carving an image, we're at least mentally creating one. And all idols are but straw men to be burned upon a fire, because they end up limiting our view of God and our. As soon as we start operating with limited view of God, then we start operating with limited view of the universe. Our understanding becomes darkened. Our capacity to worship and to know is lost.
I agree. I think that's exactly what's been happening with what I call the corruption of this information. And for my current understanding, um, Jesus, or whatever name people want to use for him, I've heard many names.
Jesus,
Mhm.
Yeshua, yeah, right.
Mhm. I believe that there was a person, maybe named Jesus, and he's like maybe even like a Socrates type of a figure, um, giving information, um, and trying to help the people. Maybe even like a guru, maybe like a Muji. Um, but the Christ, the Christ part is what is the separator for me. I
Mm,
believe that the Christ is actually the force, the energy
mm,
that
right.
we all is come to us, that is available to us. And what's happened is, perhaps intentionally for a distractive purpose, the focus has become on the man, on the person that was
Mhm.
giving the message. But the interesting thing that I find is that people are worshiping this person, this human, even though it says it's the Son, Son, of God. We are all sons and daughters of God.
Are we?
So why? I do believe him, yes.
All right.
We are made by this creator.
Well,
Yes.
um, Jesus in that same eighth chapter of the Gospel according to John, Gospel meaning good news for anyone not familiar with the term. So the good news according to John, chapter 8, which again, the chapters and the verses were later inventions. Uh, if you look at verse 44, something very surprising is said by this Jesus character.
Okay.
Shall I share screen?
Yeah, or you can read it.
All right. Well, yeah, it's better heard. Let me go to King James Bible, just because it's a very clear presentation of the work. 8 and verse 44. By the way, just to give you context, this is most of chapter 8 occurs when Jesus went unto the Mount of Olives.
Okay.
All right. So far, we've covered verse 36. If the Son therefore shall make you free, ye shall be free indeed. Okay, so that gets us acquainted with the Elizabethan English, because this was published in 1611. Verse 44 says, now you said that you believe that we're all sons and daughters of God. Here Jesus is responding, and this is not even the complete quote, because 43 says, Oh no, we're going to leave that out. We're going to stay as focused and as light as possible. But verse 44 goes, and I'm gonna read this, and someone's going to say, "You're anti-Semitic."
Who's going to say that?
I don't know, but someone will. But I'm going to remind you, this is a Jew speaking with his fellow Jewish cousins, and he says to the people who he's currently engaged in conversation with, he says, "Ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it."
Okay. Well, that to me doesn't say that, say anything, um, I would say anything different. It doesn't speak against what it is that I propose at this point.
Okay, yeah. And by the way, so that no one can think that I'm uh, making this up, there it is.
Making what up?
Uh, that I'm. If anyone wants to say this isn't in the Bible, it's right there.
I think I might need to understand what you believe it's saying because I'm not getting anything significant from that verse.
Okay. So we're gonna have to read some context then.
No need. You can just share with me what it is you believe
Sure.
it's saying. Yeah.
Well, on your phone screen, I don't know if your screen is on or off. I've shared the tab that holds the um,
Yes.
right, the actual, and we started earlier with,
Hmm.
if I can get it coming, we started with 36.
Okay.
All right. And why did I bring this up? All right, so from 36 to 44, what we have going on here is the conflict. Jesus, I think, has been promoted at times as being a unifier. But when you read his own words within the Gospels, you find that he's actually a divider. As we have lost our identity as a Christian, if ever there was such a thing as a Christian in America, so too with that, we have lost, I think, our chance at unity as a nation. This is a very hard thing to contend with because there are plenty of secular humanists who think that we can still have a viable nation simply by coasting our way through off of whatever the cultural mores are. But I think that when you escape a foundation such as, take for instance, what the Pilgrims had when they came over in 1620, when you depart from the shared vision that they had, which was to say, create a place where they could build a new Jerusalem or a new Eden or a new haven. These were all townships, right, throughout New England and going into the Midwest, for instance. Then you lose the capacity to have a unified country only because the country soon splits up into becoming one of competing visions. And some people go off and build this, and other people go off and build that. And so long as there's enough territory, you can do that. And and then also while doing that, you also have to contend with the fact that was it 12 or 20 different families came over on a land bridge millennia prior, and they already had their ways set up. So there was a tension between the Europeans with the Aboriginals. There was, and this happened not just across Americas, but it also happened across Africa when colonialism moved into Africa from primarily Europe. So you have the well established, the built up systems of the world, the commonly shared beliefs, the definitions of the words, their common understandings accepted, which provides for a certain amount of stability, being being competed against with a oftentimes a whole other language even.
Yeah. So, yes, well, I understand that many believe that, without the glue of a construct like Christianity, a religion, and those who fervently believe in that will see things as if they are correct and that without this, our society cannot survive. But at the same time, across the world, there are many other groups similar to this, Christianity, with their own belief systems that believe exactly the same way. This tells me that this is not the way. It's a construct that humans attach to. I
Okay.
don't believe it's wrong because I used to be in religion. It gave me a lot of information that I seem to be discerning differently today. And it feels, because that's the only way I can describe it, is energetically, it feels correct. It feels more clear than it did before. Before, it was I felt I was very much in, just doing what was told. There was no understanding, there was no understanding of it. So, but stepping back from it and looking at these constructs that existed around the world, I could see that there was a purpose that had been lost, or I would say hijacked by those who wants to capitalize on it.
Hmm.
And so that's what I think has happened to religions, belief systems. I see that there's a purpose for it, but once you cling to it and only it creates a veil of sorts, so that, or a prison, so
Hmm.
that you cannot receive anything else. It's almost like you're stuck there for a while. But I
I've
don't believe
changed.
it's where we're supposed to be stuck at. I believe that we're supposed to receive this information and digest it and try to understand what it means, not to create a religion out of it, not to isolate other people from it, but to live by it and to figure out this seems to be, to me, this earth seems to be almost like a word problem. There's something we are to understand about ourselves.
Do you know there are at least 16 versions of the Golden Rule?
Probably, yeah. Around the world, it's been taught.
I took issue with your utilization of the word exact.
Exact?
Yeah,
What, in what way did I use the word exact?
you said that it's all exactly the same, and I think you were speaking from a principles perspective.
Oh, yes. What I was referring to is the construct, the makeup of the construct
Even,
of it.
even so, right? So teachers have been creating constructs since time immemorial, and maybe they're good for a season, and most of them retire. I would claim, um, or maybe people get tired of them and just throw them away. Okay,
Mhm. Yes.
especially as soon as they figured out that it's not serving anyone, oftentimes can cause quite a bit of harm. So when I think of, for instance, the Golden Rule, and uh, at the bottom here, for lack of a better source, this page that I'm currently sharing to screen says all versions and forms of the proverbial golden rule have one aspect in common. They all demand that people treat others in a manner in which they themselves would like to be treated.
Yes.
Even with that version, I would say, which they themselves, which they are they talking about? Are they talking about themselves, or are they talking about how they imagine the other to be? You get the subtle difference?
Yes.
Hmm. So when I think of all the different ways in which to express the golden rule and how it's come up in various cultures and societies throughout the ages, I think these are facets, different ways that made probably the most essential sense in that society. And yes, they all more or less share uh, at least that aspect. Perhaps the way I would like to be treated, or the way I imagine the other would like to be treated, which is, yes, go ahead.
No, no, no. Well, I was going to say real quick. I heard. I don't know if you've heard of this fellow. There's so many people out here. Jeff Doherty, and with reference to the Golden Rule, he says that it was corrupted. And his way of saying it is that because when you think about the effect of what happens when you treat people like you want to be treated, it's not right. You end up with a conflict
Right,
because they don't want to be treated like you like. They want to be treated like they like. And
right,
so he proposed that actually this was a corruption. It was supposed to be treat others as they want to be treated.
yes,
And that causes less conflict. And I think I heard that 4 or 5 years ago now, and I've been meditating on that all this time. I've had no one to talk to about it, but I mean, it's possible.
well, then we're relying upon our model of the other. And then there's the more thorny ethical issue, which is okay, you treat someone as they, or as you imagine that they might like to be treated. And you could probably have a success rate of 80, 85, 90, 95% success in
Mm,
being able to accomplish or achieve that.
mm.
However, what about the times you get it wrong? Or what about the times where, okay, let's say you're serving a marketplace, and the marketplace you think wants to be entertained, so you spend all your time entertaining the marketplace when really what they needed was something more essential.
Mm. Um, I don't believe that this is a rule, as in follow this or else. I believe it's a guide, but the rule part is where we get, I believe, confused or trapped because then it becomes something to live by. And then you start noticing, oh, you're not doing it. So you're not right. You have to follow this. I
Right.
think where humans get tripped up or trapped up, and some of those with nefarious intentions know this
Oh
and
yeah.
they use it. They push it even. They make it bigger so that you have more conflict as opposed to unification.
Yeah.
So what happens with inside me, for whatever reason I was designed this way, is I see the imbalance occurring, that it cannot be this is what was meant, because it can only lead to conflict and dissension. So we can gain an understanding by figuring out, like what we're doing, talking about it and seeing how does this piece fit best. But if we do that, for those who are attached to the rules, the it says this and this is what it means, are is it making it difficult for them? I think it might, because they're attached to the meaning that they prescribe to it.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk for a moment about the rule enforcers and what. How is it?
I can't
What
believe
is
you
it?
said that word.
Rule enforcers?
Yeah, because that's me. I used to be a good rule follower and enforcer.
Well, it is part of the normal progression of the evolution of not only societies but of mankind, or womankind, or humankind, however you want to phrase this.
Hmm.
Um, First of all, why do we have rule enforcers?
Well, I do believe that it's possible that the design of it was to protect information so that it could be passed down because we're aware that over time, just like the game telephone, information becomes distorted and corrupted, mostly unintentionally or not intentionally. So I believe that there were some rules, a construct designed to protect the information and to keep the information flowing correctly.
And Hyro is now with us. So let me go ahead and get my. I'm going to have to plug in because this thing's about to. I want to steal my wife's cord. No, I want going to grab my own cord. And I'm going to hop out of this session, which was a wonderful initial. Um, uh, Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Hyro. Don and I, and I'm not gonna leave this group until you join this Hyro Zoom room.
Okay, I'll
Uh,
go now.
he's now on Zoom. Yeah,
Thank you, thank you, Rami. This was great.
yeah.
All right, let me get in here.
All right, Central Florida Philosophy. This was your preview, or YouTubers, to another group called Wake Up and Think Clearly. We hope that you've enjoyed your stay. We're now going to hop over to Hyro's personal Zoom room where we are going to continue this conversation. And I'll try to paste as a comment later the rest of where we went from here. So we thank you and have a beautiful day.
Good morning, Donnie Lee. Evie. Are you still resting, Donnie? Are you still resting?